From our Washington, D.C. studios, this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. Denmark's Prime Minister says U.S. threats towards Greenland are serious. This and more on today's news. Stay tuned. President Donald Trump warns Republicans that losing control of Congress in November's midterm elections could put him at risk of impeachment. Speaking to lawmakers at a party retreat in Washington, he said Democrats would move quickly if Republicans failed to hold the House. Trump told legislators that they must win to protect his presidency, adding that opponents would find a reason to impeach him. Republicans currently hold a narrow House majority. All 435 House seats and 33 Senate seats will be contested in November. Trump urged Republican-led states to redraw congressional maps in their favor. Democrats have used similar tactics in states they control. Recent polls put Trump's approval rating in the low to mid-40s. Economic concerns and backlash over U.S. military actions abroad have added pressure ahead of the vote. The House voted twice in the past to impeach Trump during his first term. Both times, the Senate voted to acquit him. No U.S. president has ever been removed from office through impeachment. A U.S. senator is moving to block funding for any American military action against Greenland. Senator Ruben Gallego introduced an amendment to the Senate Defense Spending Bill on Monday. The proposal would ban money for military force, war planning, or hostilities involving Greenland. Gallego said Congress should not pay for what he calls illegal and unnecessary wars. He accused President Donald Trump of using foreign threats to distract from domestic problems. Greenland is a self-governing territory of Denmark and a NATO partner. Concern has grown over recent U.S. military action in Venezuela. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen rejected any talk of annexation. Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen warned an attack on a NATO ally would shake global security. The White House says all options remain on the table. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller states it is the U.S. position that Greenland should be part of the United States and questioned Denmark's claim to control the island. He also asserted that no country would militarily challenge the U.S. over Greenland's future, remarks that critics say echo talks of annexation by force. Other U.S. senators, including Tim Kaine and Chris Murphy, say Congress may take further action. Most Greenlanders oppose joining the United States and favor independence. Denmark's Prime Minister says U.S. threats towards Greenland are being taken seriously. Mette Frederiksen told Danish broadcaster DR that President Donald Trump's remarks about taking Greenland cannot be dismissed. She stressed that Greenland, an autonomous territory within the Danish kingdom, has clearly rejected any move to join the U.S. Frederiksen warned that if the U.S. attacks another North Atlantic Treaty Organization or NATO ally, the alliance would effectively collapse. Trump repeated over the weekend his claim that the U.S. needs Greenland for national security reasons. Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen called the rhetoric unacceptable and said Greenland is not for sale. He says threats and talk of annexation have no place between allies. European leaders echoed Denmark's concerns. The European Union said it would defend sovereignty and borders. United Kingdom's Prime Minister Keir Starmer backed Denmark, saying Greenland's future can only be decided by Greenland and Denmark. The remarks come as Trump hints at possible military action elsewhere after a U.S. military attack on Venezuela last weekend, raising wider alarms amongst U.S. allies. Passport holders from 13 countries, most of them in Africa, now face new U.S. visa bond fees of up to $15,000. The requirement follows a quiet policy change by the U.S. State Department under the Trump administration. 7 countries were added to the list from January 1st, according to The Independent. They include Botswana, the Central African Republic, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, and Namibia. Bhutan and Turkmenistan are the only non-African additions. The bond applies to travelers seeking B1 or B2 visitor visas. Fees range from $15,000 to $5,000. Officials say that the goal is to reduce visa overstays. Paying the bond does not guarantee approval. The money is refunded if a visa is denied or once the traveler proves that they followed the rules. Countries already affected include Mauritania, Tanzania, Malawi, Zambia, Sao Tome, Principe, and the Gambia. Applicants must file a bond form with the Department of Homeland Security and pay through pay.gov. The policy is part of a broader U.S. entry restrictions, including in-person interviews and expanded background checks. 2 of America's most famous critics of U.S. missile defense were not outsiders challenging military power, they were deeply embedded in it. During the Cold War, physicists Hans Bethe and Richard Garvin became widely known for publicly criticizing the Pentagon's planned anti-ballistic missile system, the Sentinel, arguing it could be easily defeated by decoys and countermeasures. Their critiques helped fuel public opposition to missile defense and cemented their reputations as scientists standing up to militarization. But a new historical account from the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists reveals a more complicated reality. Bethe and Garvin were not operating on the margins. Both advised the Pentagon, consulted for defense contractors, and helped develop the missile and radar technologies that made systems like the Sentinel possible. While they publicly opposed large-scale missile defense, both supported limited systems aimed at smaller threats, particularly China. Bethe argued that a light defense could stabilize deterrence and guard against accidental launches. Garvin went further, proposing specific radar sites and interceptor layouts. When Scientific American invited them to write a joint article, their measured technical critique was edited into a much stronger public rejection of missile defense. Privately, however, both men continued advising the government and contributing to newer systems. The episode underscored how scientific authority and national security often overlap. Even celebrated critics, the Bulletin notes, frequently operate from within the very structures they appear to challenge. House Democrats marked the 5th anniversary of January 6, 2021 attacks on the U.S. Capitol by supporters of President Donald Trump on Tuesday, calling it a violent assault on democracy. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries said a mob incited by Trump stormed the Capitol to overturn the 2020 election and block the peaceful transfer of power. Jeffries said more than 140 law enforcement officers were seriously injured. Some later died. He praised the U.S. Capitol Police and members of Congress who returned that night to finish their work. The attack, he said, ultimately failed because of that resolve. Jeffries accused Trump and far-right allies in Congress of trying to rewrite history. He criticized Trump for pardoning hundreds of people convicted in the attack, calling it a crime spree that fueled further violence. He also faulted Republicans for not condemning the events. The assault followed Trump losing the 2020 election to former President Joe Biden. Jeffrey said that the lesson remains clear. Democracy must be protected, elections must be defended, and January 6th must never happen again. An Islamic center proposed in the Broken Arrow area in Oklahoma is facing opposition from a number of local residents. Details coming up next.
My name is Layla. I was an average kid until Zula Inc. broke into my life because my dad discovered time travel. After that, everything changed.
You're the new girl Layla, right?
Whoa! What if I don't fit in?
Abdullah!
Do I hear my name?
Oh!
Welcome to Vancouver, cuz.
Whoa! Whoa!
You four have been specially chosen to take our project into the next generation.
You can time travel?
Abdullah! No! Abdullah! Where?
Do you really think I don't know why we had to leave Seattle, Baba?
Now here, keep these close. These should never leave your wrist.
This virtual reality game is crazy. You can even eat. This is reality, buddy. We zoomed through a wormhole.
Oh no, my Go Watch! It's gone!
What does this do?
That's Al-Khwarizmi. You know, the father of mathematics. It's because of him we have algorithms.
I will not stop until your legacy, everyone's legacy, lies in ruins. Of course it was you. You little rascals ruined everything.
Your fate will be great. Just don't give up.
Time hoppers.
An Islamic center proposed in the Broken Arrow area in Oklahoma is facing opposition from a number of local residents. Supporters of the project say that the backlash is driven by misconceptions and anti-Muslim attitudes. Community members backing the center say that the project is intended to serve local Muslim families and promote interfaith understanding, not disrupt surrounding neighborhoods. They argue concerns being raised about traffic, parking, and floodplains are being exaggerated and selectively framed to block a religious institution. Supporters note that large churches, shopping centers, and event venues in the area generate similar or heavier traffic without drawing the same level of scrutiny. Some opponents have publicly claimed their objections are not religious. David Oldham, founder of the conservative group Constitutional Ground, said many residents believe the project is not suitable for the land and could affect nearby neighborhoods. City officials are expected to consider the proposal in upcoming public hearings. President Donald Trump claims a majority of Bangladeshi immigrant families living in the United States rely on government assistance. Trump made the claim in a post on Truth Social, where he shared a chart titled Immigrant Welfare Recipient Rates by Country of Origin. He did not share where he received the data for the chart from. The list compares benefits use amongst immigrant families from 120 countries. According to the data he posted, 54.8% of Bangladeshi immigrant families receive some form of U.S. government benefits. Bangladesh ranks 19th overall on their list. Bhutan tops the chart with 81.4% of its immigrant families receiving assistance. Yemen follows at 75.2% and then Somalia at 71.9%. Afghanistan ranks 6th at 68.1%. Pakistan appears much lower at 40.2%, while Nepal stands at 34.8%. The figures come as the Bangladeshi population in the U.S. continues to rise. A 2025 report by Pew Research Center shows that the community grew from about 40,000 people in 2000 to nearly 270,000 people in 2023. Critics say Trump is using the data to target non-white immigrant communities as recent government immigration. China has approved a dedicated airspace corridor allowing Pakistan to operate direct flights to Bangladesh without crossing Indian airspace. The move gives Pakistani carriers a northern route through western China and into the Bay of Bengal. It is expected to cut flight times on some sectors and reduce fuel costs. Aviation officials say that the routing will support direct services from major Pakistani cities to Bangladesh's capital Dhaka and other destinations in the country. Flight plans will be phased in once final approvals and airport slots are cleared. The arrangement follows technical talks between civil aviation authorities and air navigation providers. Demonstration flights are expected before commercial schedules are announced. Industry analysts say that the corridor lowers uncertainty linked to sensitive overflight permissions in South Asia. Airspace access in the region has often been shaped by political considerations. For regional aviation, the decision highlights China's growing role in connecting South and West Asia. It also reflects closer coordination between China, Pakistan, and Bangladesh while avoiding India. Bangladeshi airlines have shown interest in code sharing and cargo cooperations once timetables and safety checks are finalized. An Israeli airstrike hit a tent sheltering displaced families in southern Gaza, killing 2 Palestinians, including a child. The strike is being described as a new violation of the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas that went into effect on October the 10th. Gaza's health ministry says Israel has killed at least 424 Palestinians since the ceasefire began. Local medical sources say that the strike happened Monday evening in the Al-Mawasi area west of Khan Yunis. Several others were wounded. Al-Mawasi is a coastal zone that has become a refuge for thousands of displaced families. Many moved there after fleeing earlier. The area was amongst locations where Israeli forces had withdrawn from under the ceasefire. The Israeli military claims it targeted a Hamas member allegedly planning an attack in southern Gaza. Palestinian health officials say civilians were inside the tent at the time. Since the ceasefire took effect, Gaza's health ministry reports hundreds of violations. Israel's genocide in Gaza has killed nearly 71,400 Palestinians, most of them women and children, since October 2023. Israeli soldiers opened fire on students at Bir Zit University in the occupied West Bank on Tuesday, disrupting a screening of the film Hind Rajab. The Palestinian Health Ministry said 11 people were injured in Israeli live fire and were taken to Istishari Arab Hospital in Ramallah. The film documents the January 2024 killing by Israeli soldiers of a 5-year-old Palestinian girl, Hind Rajab, during Israel's genocide in Gaza. The film recounts Rajab's final hours as she was trapped in a vehicle with relatives during Israel's military operations. An initial investigation from the Euro-Mediterranean Human Rights Monitor found that Rajab and her relatives were killed by the Israeli army in a planned execution. Student organizers said that the screening aimed to highlight the impact of the war on Palestinian children and civilians. Israeli forces entered the campus shortly before the event began. Local sources say troops smashed doors and fired live ammunition, sound grenades, and tear gas inside university grounds. The Palestinian Red Crescent said 3 students were shot in the legs. The raid forced the cancellation of the screening and caused panic among students and staff. Palestinian officials say Israeli raids on universities have increased across the West Bank. A common mouth bacterium, best known for causing cavities, may also affect the brain. Scientists in South Korea says bacteria from the mouth can move into the gut and release harmful compounds. The research team, led by scientists at Pohang University of Science and Technology, found higher levels of a cavity-causing bacterium in people with Parkinson's disease. Once in the gut, the microbe produces a chemical that entered the bloodstream and reached the brain. In animal tests, that chemical damaged dopamine-producing brain cells. The mice developed inflammation, movement problems, and protein buildup linked to Parkinson's. Researchers also identified a key brain signaling pathway involved in the damage. When that pathway was blocked, brain inflammation and movement problems were reduced. The findings were published in Nature Communications. Parkinson's disease affects up to 2% of people older than 65 worldwide. Scientists say better dental care could one day help lower the risk, but more human studies are needed.
And socioeconomic growth in the country. This effort aligns with Pakistan's Look Africa policy, with NADRA actively providing secure identity and passport solutions to several African nations, including Kenya, Sudan, and Nigeria.
That's all from our Washington, D.C. studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News. We're a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content on YouTube. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum.